And I see TikToks on here all the time that talk about like, pretty girls and how they're never approached. And it's true. Like, I was just out at a bar. Black men were there. None of them talked to my friends and I. All pretty girls, black girls, none. And it's like, people say, like, finding someone to have sex with you, to take you out to eat, to compliment you is not hard. I can go on these apps clearly and find someone that's ready to have sex with me tonight, right now, without even knowing my last name. Literally does not know if I've just got rid of an STD yesterday, but is definitely willing to have sex with me right now. But finding someone that like is willing to check on me when I say I'm having a bad day, that's too much. And it's just so frustrating because it's like, I'm just myself. I don't know what else to do.
The mental gymnastics are so impressive. In the same video, in less than a minute, she's able to talk about how much of a victim she is, that guys aren't just approaching her in a bar, and this is proof that pretty girls don't get hit on. And then also says, it's so easy to find men to have sex with me, but I'm looking for something deeper. Who goes to a bar looking for depth? What actually is the complaint? Is it that you can't get men to hit on you, or the ones that do, you're not forming any kind of a deeper connection? Because if that's what you want, in the first instance, you're looking in the wrong place. Don't go out to bars. But in the second instance, being pretty isn't enough. That is a message that women definitely need to be hearing more often, that being pretty is not enough. But we hear all this cultural, like, propaganda, like, you're amazing, you're a queen, you're a woman, so therefore you're automatically incredibly valuable and special. You deserve the world. You deserve the very best quality man that's out there. But the message I'm going to give you in this video is the opposite. I'm actually going to say that unless you're a really high quality woman, your out of control hypergamous instincts, which make you think that you deserve the very top man, are going to lead you to misery. It is actually dangerous for a woman to be with a high quality man unless she's a really high quality woman herself. And I'm not just talking about her being pretty. I mean, actually having a high quality personality. This is going to be a really hard sell because I'm essentially telling women to take that image that they have in their mind of this amazing, perfect, high quality guy and just to rip it up. But it's not to torture them. I'm not making this video or giving this message in order to be cruel. I actually think it's going to help you. Holding on to that image is only going to do you harm. And I recognize that, this is going to be a hard sell because it goes against the cultural conditioning of female empowerment and also goes against the biology of women, the hypergamous instinct, which tells them to only date up. But what I'm contending is that when women crane their necks too high and they look too high up, it's actually bad for them. Well, why is that? Why is it dangerous for women to aim really, really high? Well, think about the kind of behaviors that you typically see from high status men. I'm using the term high status because I'm talking from a woman's perspective. Obviously, when I talk about a high quality man, I'm talking about a man of morals, of character, of depth. But when women are talking about, high quality, high status, they tend to mean like, oh, he's really tall, he's really good looking, he's very suave, he's semi-famous, he's got a lot of money. But if you think about the dating life of a high status guy like that, what comes to mind? Is it fidelity? Is it boring suburban life? Is it marrying early and having children? No, for guys who reach the top of the pyramid, they enjoy themselves the way that men do, by fucking around. We understand that, don't we, as men? Like, even if promiscuity is not part of our value system, we at least get the biological drive that it comes from. And even if only 5% of the male population is actually, high status enough to be living that player lifestyle, 90% of men probably would if they could. But hopefully you can see why it's obviously dangerous for women to be chasing after that particular guy, because he's not looking to settle down. He's looking to have sex. That fantasy, that delusional fantasy that so many women have, that drives so much of their behavior in the dating market of, I'm going to find the rogue villain, the bad boy guy, and I'm going to change him. I'm going to tame him. I'm going to domesticate him so that he's loyal only to me. That causes women so much suffering. I mean, at a certain point, it's actually difficult to maintain compassion. Like maybe the first couple of times, it's like, okay, yeah, you're a victim of your instincts. You didn't know any better. But for women who continue to sleep with this kind of guy and then end up crying on TikTok, like, what? Who could have possibly seen this happening? It's like, well, anyone who was paying attention. If as a woman, you're truly looking for a dependable guy who you can settle down with, don't be looking at those top status guys. That demographic wants something completely different to you. And guess what? You're probably not going to succeed anyway, because the level of competition for that guy is so intense. You realize that you have hypergamy, you're looking for those top status guys, but every other woman is as well. All women have got their necks craned upwards looking at those top guys. And so the competition is fierce, which of course just reinforces the male promiscuity angle, because when those top status guys have got so many women just flooding at them, so many options, he realizes that he doesn't have to give away his commitment in order to obtain sex. You know, women are willing to lower the price for entry, for sexual access to them, if it just means a little bit of proximity to this guy. But with so many women undercutting their competition by lowering their price further and further and further, you, as a nice, genuine woman who wants a connection with him, you've got no chance. All of your sisters have sold you out. They're giving him what he wants for nothing. You're not going to succeed. This just seems so painfully obvious to me. And yet women, they still have the audacity to act like victims in these situations where men just use them for sex. And if you want to know where, you know, that stereotype of the 30-plus woman who's like bitter and like, I hate men comes from, it's from a woman who continues to face that direction, to chase after that kind of guy. You know, she can't beat out the female competition. There's too many other women competing for that one guy. And when she does finally turn his head, he just wants to use her for sex. She does this a bunch of times, and then she concludes that men are the problem. I have this dream that one day we will wake up and the internet will just be filled with messages and posts and videos from women saying, we've seen the light. We are now going to collectively take responsibility for our bad choices and the men that we choose to date. We're going to stop sexually rewarding men who take us for granted. And most importantly, we're going to stop playing the victim and stop blaming men. We now realize that we've played our own part in this dynamic coming to life. God, what a fantasy. That's never going to happen. But let me take this even further, because in case, as a woman, you're hearing this and you're not depressed enough, let me just further paint the picture of what you've got waiting for you down the line. Because if you're a low to average quality woman and somehow you do manage to get one of these high status, high quality guys into a relationship, that's not where the journey ends. Your relationship with him is probably going to be miserable. Elaine Hatfield was the first person to actually coin the term the matching hypothesis, which you may not have known the scientific term for it, but you know what it is. It's this tendency you see for men and women to match up with equally attractive partners. They did research throughout the 60s, 70s, 80s that confirmed this again and again. And even in the modern age, with hypergamy going crazy and people doing like online dating, this still holds true. What they found when they did this research in 2011, I think, was that although men and women tended to try and match and like message with people who were more attractive than they are, like really like going for the top quality attractive people, when it actually came to messaging and pursuing certain things, people would regress back to their kind of natural range of attractiveness. There's a reason for this. The matching hypothesis isn't just an accident. Psychologically, it makes sense why we seek out people of comparable quality to us. What women don't understand is that to date a man of much higher quality than they are is to create a lot of problems for themselves. People will notice, people will talk, and that's going to infect your relationship. Like, you probably know this. When you walk down the street and you see a couple together and one of them, either the man or the woman, is just vastly better looking than the other one, you notice. That's interesting. That's weird. I'm taking notice of that. Or at a deeper level, in your social circle, you might notice this. Like if your best friend is a really amazing guy, he's intelligent, he's creative, he's compassionate, he's loyal, and he's dating some absolutely trashy woman with, you know, vapid personality, it's weird. The disconnect makes people notice. So you can imagine what the reality of that is going to be like for an average quality woman being with a really high status man. Everyone's going to be talking. Everybody's going to be gossiping. All of the women who are jealous of you and who wanted to be the ones to be with that guy, they're going to undermine you. You're their competition, and they're going to be whispering in his ear, spreading rumors, starting gossip. You're going to be constantly insecure because the world is not going to let you forget that you are batting way above your weight. And if you didn't have self-esteem issues beforehand, you're definitely going to have them now. And it's going to get worse because what you tend to find is that men, as they get older, often increase their attractiveness in the dating market. They become higher and higher quality. Obviously, not indefinitely. There's not many women out there who are chasing after 90-year-old guys, but if we assume people are getting together, in their mid-20s, as he gets older and reaches 30, 35, 40, he's going to grow in social status. He's going to grow in wealth and confidence. His looks are probably going to fade a little bit, but not by that much. He's going to have a sort of mature, distinguished kind of vibe to him. But for the woman, it's a completely different story. Her peak attractiveness in terms of physicality was in her early 20s, and every year that she gets older, she starts to become a little bit fatter, a little bit more wrinkled, and men can sense this, right? It's like, women of good childbearing age tend to be late teens, early 20s. The further she gets from that ideal window, the less attractive she is. So you started off at this kind of a distance, but you understand as time goes on, it's just going to get wider and wider and wider, and all the problems are going to get worse. Don't be surprised if one day your man, who has been increasing his value over a number of years while you've been sliding down, suddenly looks at you and goes, I've completely misjudged this situation. I now feel like I want to be wild and free. I want to explore my options. Essentially, I feel like I could have done better than you. Now, I don't mean to suggest that a woman's only value is in how fertile she appears, and that's the only thing that men notice. Definitely not. A woman's femininity is expressed in so many more ways than just her sexuality. And of course, when a woman has children, then she's kind of viewed in terms of her quality as a woman in her capacity as a mother and as a wife. It's no longer about trying to inhabit that sort of virgin maiden energy. It's like, no. Like, I'm a mother now, and this is what I do. And I'm not letting men off the hook either. I'm not saying this to excuse men or give it my moral seal of approval. Largely, if you've committed to a girl and she's put her best, most attractive years towards you, you owe her a little bit something. You can't just constantly be trading up for, a better deal. But here's the reality of the situation is that women, even if you're morally right and you have a completely legitimate claim to victimhood and it's unfair the way that you've been treated, that's not necessarily going to stop a situation like this from occurring. And so be smart. Prevention is definitely the best cure. Maybe it wasn't a good idea to date a guy so far above you in terms of quality in the first place. As you hear all of this, you can understand that to be with a really high quality guy is going to be a lot of pressure, and that's not necessarily an enjoyable experience for anybody in a relationship. The matching hypothesis makes sense from a psychological point of view because you don't want to be constantly paranoid and insecure in your relationship because you've got it with a partner who's so much better than you. You want to be somebody of basically equal value. That way you can just relax and actually enjoy the relationship. Now, I've made the case in another video that polygamy is going to become a lot more common in the future. You're going to find these high status men are going to be taking 2, 3, 4 wives, and what I made the case for in that video, I'll put a link down below if anyone hasn't seen it. I'm really proud of that video. I made the case that it's going to be in the best interest of a lot of women for society to be approving of this polygamous arrangement. And I hope you can understand why, listening to what I've just talked about here, is because for a low quality woman, she might want a really high quality man, but she doesn't necessarily want the insecurity and the pressure that comes along with that, being his one and only partner. But perhaps if she can share him with 2 or 3 sister wives, she kind of gets the benefit of being his partner without all of the pressure. I'm not condoning that. I think that it's a ridiculous strategy. I think that it's a much better idea to embrace monogamy and find somebody who's your equal in terms of quality and pursue that relationship. That might sound boring to a lot of women, but I would encourage you guys to actually learn from men in this regard, because in this capacity, men are more easily satisfied. I don't think there's that many men out there who are like, I am only going to settle for the best of the best of the best. I'm going to hold out. I only have eyes for that top girl, and I don't even notice any other women. Largely, I think we could stand to raise our standards a little bit. Men need to value themselves a lot more than they currently do. But what you tend to find is that men will give most women a chance, and in order to satisfy them in a relationship, it doesn't require nearly as much. Mostly it's like, hey, is she generally quite pretty? Is she nice to me? Is she kind? Is she going to be, a good mother, nice to our children? Yeah, that's enough. Let's give it a try. Let's see if we can create a life together. Because what a lot of men understand intuitively is that they have a capacity to change and grow and improve throughout the course of their life. They've been doing it forever. Self-improvement is so popular with men because of this idea that we have as men. We need to make something of ourselves. We have to prove our worth and kind of earn our value in our world. Whereas women, they have a little bit more of a sense of, I've just got an inherent, gifted value. I can't necessarily change it so much. But where this comes into relationships is men understand that by getting together with one particular girl at this level of quality, that's not like a fixed state of affairs. They can work together. They can keep improving. They can deepen that pair bonding relationship and raise themselves in terms of quality over and over and over again. But what's important is that they start at that same spot. But for women who are like, no, like value is fixed. I'm here and I'm looking for a man up here. Disaster. And I want to finish this video with a word of caution to men, because the flip side of a woman punching above her weight is a man punching below his weight and dating a girl who is a lot lower quality than he is. And it's a really, really bad idea for all of the reasons that we've already discussed, but also it's never pleasant to talk about this, but the woman's response in that situation when you're feeling a little bit like, hey, maybe I could have done better. Maybe I should have explored my options. Is my partner really that high quality? Her response so rarely is, I'm going to improve. I'm going to really dedicate myself to making me worthy of being your partner. I'm going to take accountability and responsibility for this. So often, women are going to project the blame outwards and then become angry and critical and abusive of you, accusing you of being judgmental. I mean, those are almost the lucky ones, guys, who encounter that kind of a woman, because at least she's showing you what she thinks. She's being open about it. More often, what women will do in a really subtle technique of abuse is begin to undermine your confidence in ways that you can't even necessarily perceive. Like, she's threatened by how high quality you are, and so she's going to try and make you be less confident, less sure of yourself, more self-critical, because that way she feels safer. Like, he doesn't understand how amazing he is. I'm going to keep him with his low self-esteem. I'm going to feed him really negative reinforcement. That way he never leaves me. It's a total disaster. It's really, really dark, but people who are scared of being abandoned, scared to lose the partner they've invested in, their psychology can go to some really, really dark places. But of course, this can just be avoided if you just date somebody of sufficiently similar quality, which is why on my Patreon, the theme of self-improvement comes up so much, because I'm not trying to give men tips necessarily on how to snag that high quality woman that they don't really deserve. That's not how this is going to work. I want you as a man to take my content as an inspirational wake-up call that says, yes, it's a good thing that you're attracted to high quality women. Now let's work on making you worthy of her. Improve yourself, become the most amazing version of yourself that you can possibly be. And then getting her is going to be easy and you're going to be free of any kind of insecurities or doubts. In that sense, it kind of works both ways. There's some gendered aspects to this, but also it's somewhat universal. But what about those men who can't improve, who don't have the capacity to ever get those high quality women? How should we feel about those guys? Is that something that deserves compassion, or is this just Darwinism? Is it just survival of the fittest? It's great. It's like we're culling the species of all the low-quality males. Which of these two moral systems do you subscribe to? This is the topic of my latest Patreon video, and it is a fascinating synthesis of biology, morality, and culture. It goes to some very interesting places, the video. I really think you're going to enjoy this one. So if you haven't signed up to my Patreon yet, head on over there. It's very affordable. It's only $5. You get access to that video plus every other video in my back catalog. They're all sorted into topics. You can browse through, find a video that's interesting to you. If you've got $5 lying around, it's worth the experiment. Sign up, see what I've got on offer.